This is Frankie Lynch, astrological consultant. Please, please, please like and subscribe. Click that bell, smash that like. I need all the help I can get. I want you to get notified of new fun videos as I make lots and lots and lots of them. Because I like doing this. And follow me on social media, and all of your sins will be forgiven. Sorry, I was raised Catholic. Anyway, I wanted to talk today a little bit about my real passion. No, it's not actually astrology. Astrology's always been a peripheral practice to me. My real passion since I was probably 4 years old has been consciousness. I had an experience around 3 or 4. It was when my progressed Mercury stationed direct. But it felt like the only way I can describe it, and the only way I could describe it when I was a child, was, I'm here. Let's dig into that a little bit. Where does I come from? Where does that sense of self come from? We take it completely for granted, but everything happens upon it, right? We use the vertical pronoun I ad infinitum, yes, because that's what we take ourselves to be. What are we? Well, I don't know, but we have to find out. So, well, we all have a fear of life, just like we have a fear of death. Clients tell me all the time, I'm not afraid of death. I call BS on that, because the idea of consciousness ceasing, right, of us all of a sudden not existing, is terrifying. You've never not known a time when you were here, right? You've never experienced a time when you weren't here. The only time we do is when we're under anesthesia, and we don't really remember that, right? What's the one thing you know for sure? I'll give you a hint. It's that you are here. You don't even know that you're going to die for sure because you've never died before. And you don't remember being born, quite likely. So again, we're sort of just thrown into the world without a manual and with no idea what this all is. And the only thing we have to cling to is that sense of I, that sense of me, that sense of self. So we're going to do a couple little exercises here that should elucidate the situation for us. And hopefully these will be practical and useful in your daily life. Again, my passion is consciousness. I started with the occult when I was 12 years old because of all this stuff. I danced around the occult circuit quite a bit during my teenage years and my early 20s. And eventually I found this exercise. We're going to do it together, and then I'll explain a little bit more about it. So first, we're going to do a preparatory exercise called Zazen. Okay? It's just counting your breaths. Very simple. These are all ridiculously easy exercises, and they won't hurt you. Okay? You can be extremely religious. Yeah? You can be a total atheist, and the practice will be the same. It's not a spiritual practice necessarily, and it's not a spiritual practice. It just is what it is. So the first exercise, Zazen. So please humor me for a little bit and follow along. I promise you that this can be quite important in your life over time. So we're sitting comfortably, yes, and we're breathing normally. Right? Let's close our eyes so we don't get distracted. We're going to breathe in normally. Don't try and control your breath. And then breathe out normally. But on the end of the exhale, you're going to count 1. Breathe in again normally and out again normally. And on the end of that exhale, you're going to count 2. You're going to repeat the process till you get to 10. When you get to 10, you start over, right? I recommend that everyone do this exercise for at least a minute to start. And we'll do it together just for a little bit right now. Okay, let's stop there for a second. Hopefully, you feel a little bit relaxed. But what that exercise should do is strengthen your attention a little bit, because attention is the big superpower you're going to need for the rest of this, and probably for the rest of your life. Okay, the next bit will sound like mindfulness exercises. If you've been in a corporate setting, you'll be like, oh, I've done that before. But no, you haven't. This is a little bit different, so please bear with me and follow along. So our eyes are closed again so we don't get distracted. We're breathing normally. And as I'm speaking to you, you can tell that you can direct your attention. Yes? And that your attention is mostly on my voice. Now I want you to take that same sense of attention and put it on the sensation of your relaxed tongue sitting in your mouth. Perhaps it's pressed up against the back of your teeth, or perhaps your gums. Put your attention there. It's just a simple background sensation until we bite our tongues, right? We take it so for granted. Now, follow along with my voice again. You're listening to me speaking. Your attention is on my voice. And now I want you to take that same sense of attention and place it on the sensation of your teeth wedged into your gums. Again, it's a simple background sensation until we go to the dentist, right? Anyway, I want you to focus on my voice once again. Your attention is on me speaking. And now you're going to take that same sense of attention and you're going to put it on the sensation of being you. The mind sort of recoils and says, what the F does that mean? But this isn't a thinking activity. We're not thinking any thoughts in particular. This is purely sensation. What is it that you mean when you say the word me? Put your attention there. The sensation of I. And that's it. We'll stop there for the sake of brevity. But if you did this with me once, I'm quite sure you will do it again. At the very least, it relaxes you. At the very best, it gets us acquainted with what? The background. Everything happens upon the background. You may recall being a child, right? You see light streaming in through the window, yes. And then you see perhaps particles of dust floating through the air, right? And as they drift through that shaft of light, they're illuminated, yes. and then they drift out of it and they're obscured once again. Well, I'm here to tell you, you are that shaft of light. You are the journey you're having. You are the adventure you're on. You are the path yourself. The final frontier, as they said in Star Trek. This all sounds like drug talk until you start feeling it out for yourself, right? These are just a bunch of platitudes until you make a practice of it. But I can tell you, I've been involved in the occult for, over 25 years, since I was 12 years old. And this is the one practice I've found the most useful. You should still meditate. Meditation's great. But at the end of the day, the only thing you know for sure is that you are here. Think about that and you'll see why it is so. You don't even know that I'm here. You don't even know that you're going to die because you've never died before. I don't care if you've had a near-death experience, right? I've had tons of clients who've had them, but you're still here. We don't even remember being under anesthesia. So anyway, this exercise is called Vichara. I got it from a couple gurus that I followed for a long time. Ramana Maharshi, Sri Maharaj Nisargadatta, and John Sherman up in Ojai, California. So Vichara means literally self-inquiry. In some traditions, it was called Atma Vichara, fixing the attention on self. Atma means self. But it's also used to denote God or the Supreme Self, yes. It's basically self-sensing. It's not a mental activity where we're actually inquiring of ourselves, like, who am I? Who am I? That's a mental activity. We're trying to see things clearly. We're trying to look. 99% of life is fated. It just happens to us. You can't control it, right? The 1% that matters, and I made these numbers up, but you understand what I'm saying for illustration purposes. The 1% that matters is the ability to direct our attention. That's our big superpower. That's where conscious choice is made. That's where we experience our will. Think of life and how much of your thought life is just taken from you into events that haven't even happened yet. And then things you don't even remember correctly. We have to process trauma. We have to go through things. And we have to experience stuff. But we don't have to stick with it. Once we identify with those things, they become us. And then life can grab a hold of us and shake us back and forth. When we learn to exercise our attention, and when we learn to focus it on the sensation of I, things slowly start to come into perspective. Carl Jung said, right, that which remains unconscious manifests outside as fate. If we just said that most of life is fated, right, and the part that matters is the ability to direct our attention, yes, then that's how we make the unconscious conscious. Carl Jung used this phrase, shadow work, which you all hear so much in the, the spiritual or esoteric community or astrological community. It's all sort of lumped in together at this point. Shadow work. What's a shadow do? It hides something, right? Hides something you want to see. What do you do when you want to see something? You shine a light on it. What's the light? The light of attention. We have to learn to see ourselves quite clearly. Because as St. Paul said, we see through a glass darkly. Meaning that we see everything through the lens of our conditioning, of our identifications, right? I'm a trans girl. I'm a parent. I'm a Mason. I'm an astrologer. All those things are going to die with me. We are all intensely afraid of death. I don't care who you are, right? As I said, the idea of consciousness ceasing is terrifying. But that also results in a fear of life. And the fear of life is the worst part. Because we have a mistaken assumption that we are at stake in life. How do we see if that's true or not? I'll suggest it's by fixing the attention on the sense of I am. Plato said to become a spectator of time is a cure for meanness of soul. What's a spectator do? It observes. It becomes a witness. of the drama and panoply of life rather than getting pulled into it. We start to learn to see ourselves clearly, like we would a character on TV or an interesting stranger. We must see ourselves quite clearly because you're not going to change your patterns. Carl Jung said that which remains unconscious manifests outside his fate, right? We can't suppress anything. If you try and suppress your thoughts or feelings, I promise you, you will get physically ill. You will get sick. I know, I've done it before. You can see how emotions even can make you physically ill. I've been there plenty of times. Ramana Maharshi, who I got this exercise from, he had his awakening through his intense terror of death. When he was about 35, he went through the whole process. He put himself through it in his imagination. It became so real for him that eventually he was aware of who it was that really died. So much so that when he was really dying, or his body rather, when he was in his 80s, his disciples were sobbing. He said to them, "Please don't cry. I'm here. Where else would I go?" When I was a child, as you might remember from the beginning of this, my sensation was, I am here. I am here. Everything was alive. Everything was singing. The only way I could describe it to myself was, I am here. It was fleeting because I wasn't firm in that experience. I felt it momentarily. Who knows how long it took? I remember running to my mom in the kitchen and being like, "Hey, Mom, I'm here." What did that mean to her? She's like, "Oh, okay, great, Frankie." Went back to doing what she was doing. But for me, it was the most profound thing of my life, and I've been chasing that experience ever since. I got this exercise, like I said, from Ramana Maharshi, from Nisargadatta, and please go find his book on YouTube. It's an audio book. It's basically just recitations of things he said to his students. It's such profound stuff, and it's so simple. People assume when they say the word soul, all these sorts of mystical new agey things. That's why I don't like using the word soul anymore. I prefer to use the word consciousness. And they sort of do mean the same thing if you look at different traditions. When John Sherman had his awakening, it was in prison. I think he was in prison for something like 18 years for bank robbery. And then he had his experience. But his was firm and solid. And he recounts, the walls were singing, not from a drug trip, but because everything was alive. And he could feel it. He could feel himself breathing in things and things breathing in him. Whatever that means to you. That's my interpretation. To one of my other gurus, Gurdjieff, Georgios Ivanovich Gurdjieff. This was called self-remembering. He used to say that we were not in control of our own lives, that we were asleep, that we couldn't really do, that we didn't have a will of our own, that we were just mechanical robots, if you will, going through life based on our conditioning and our identifications. That's really what our charts are. They show us our unconscious patterns. It's all the stuff that we do without thinking about it. Adam Ellenboss, who is, one of my most recent teachers and inspirations, he said that the chart is basically a map of what you're not. And I think he's right. Because at the end of it all, it doesn't go with you. All your identifications die with the body, unfortunately. So who are you? What are you? I always use this example. This is from an old Buddhist teaching. A monk was talking to a king. And the king wasn't grasping the idea of emptiness. And the monk said, "Take this car." He was actually talking about a horse cart, but we live in different times. He said, "Take this car." Where is the car? What makes it a car? Is the car in the steering wheel? Is it in the tires? Is it in the trunk? Is it in the engine? If you take a tire off, does it cease to be a car? If you remove any part, does it cease to be a car? The thing that we realize is that the idea car is something we're projecting on a load of metal parts, or I guess it's mostly plastic now. So that begs the question, what are you? Who are you? I used to only give this exercise to clients because I didn't think anyone else would respond to it. But so far, many people have. And it was given to me very specially. I'll be darned if I don't pass it along to everyone else. I sort of see it as my duty. A dharma, if you will. So please try it, because again, it's not going to hurt you. At the very least, it'll help you be here now and be present. At the very best, again, it will help you to sense yourself and the background, because that is you. But you have to feel it. You can't take my word for anything. Don't take anyone's word for anything. You have to find out for yourself. You can do this exercise regardless of what you believe. You don't even have to believe in anything. Just try it. It's only self-sensing. What's the worst that could happen? Humor me, please, because it's had a big effect on my life. And I really hope it'll have a big effect on yours. Anyway, I will leave it there, and I will go back to the vulgarity of self-promotion. I'm Frankie Lynch. I'm an astrological consultant. I do wonderful readings. You can visit me on all my social media platforms, which I have below here. You can email me for a reading. You can message me through social media. And please also remember that I do adult content on fansly.com. I'll have that below too. I know it seems kind of vulgar that I go off on this esoteric topic and then I sort of go into all this other stuff. Yeah. I wanted to say a quick thing about consciousness too, because it is my passion. We don't know where it comes from or what it is necessarily. It's been called the hard problem of science. Cognitive scientists are making huge leaps in understanding consciousness and the way it works. Some people think it's a product of God and the soul, an emanation of Atman. Other people think it's the aggregation of microtubules in the brain that give rise to consciousness as an emergent property or an epiphenomenon of the brain. Either way, it doesn't really matter, because still, the one thing that you have to find and research and investigate and sense is your own sense of self-consciousness, your own sense of I. So please, I invite you to do this with me, because I promise you I'll be doing it every day. You could set an alarm for it to remind you. Now back to the vulgarity. You know, I do adult content. And this is Frankie Lynch. Book me for a reading. Yada, yada, yada. Smash that like that, smash. Please, please, please hit the bell. I want you to watch lots of things of me, because guess what? I still love to be watched, even though I'm trying to understand what's in the background. It's so funny. I had this experience when I was going, I don't hang out with many people, but someone invited me to a poker game. I'm like, okay, let me try this. On the way there, I had another experience. It suddenly hit me like a ton of bricks. You are the path yourself. If we are in the process of using consciousness to know itself, then you are the path, right? I don't mean to quote scripture, but I was raised very Catholic. Christ said, I am the way, I am the door. No one comes to the Father but through me. He also said, the works that I do, you will also do. And greater works than these shall you do, because I go to the Father. If we take those two statements together as premises, to me the logical conclusion is, you are the door. You are the way. You must go through you to find the Father. And you can think of the Father as the source or the universe or Atman or whatever, Parabrahm, I don't care, God. But we have an opportunity to find out. So once again, I've been trying to end this video 3 times, but I keep thinking of stuff to say. Gemini, I love you. You're beautiful. And remember, The foundation of existence is love. Love is the awareness of the interdependence of all things. It's not a sentimental feeling. My Cancer Venus, has a hard time with that. But love is rational. It's illumined reason, as one of my mentors said. Love is fundamental, and it's awareness that you and everything you do has an influence and an impact on others. It's our duty, our dharma, if you will, to be of service to each other. I don't mean necessarily giving someone their food at McDonald's. I'm talking about encouraging each other, enlightening each other, and living as a demonstration of what we are preaching. And I've been preaching this exercise for many years, and I still am not a fit demonstrator of it. Now we are really ending the video. This is Frankie Lynch. Like and subscribe. Click the bell. Click the like. Please, please, please. Follow me on all my social media platforms and my adult page. Like I said, you're beautiful and you are enough. If you feel like you're not enough, you'll never be enough, and that's okay too. Because we never, ever get anywhere. There's no destination. You're not the destination. You're a journey. And I'm sorry, my darling, but the journey never, ever ends. This is Frankie Lynch.